I never thought I'd be the guy writing one of these stories, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I thought I had everything figured out with Lisa. We met in college, hit it off right away, and after 3 years we got engaged. Things weren't perfect, but I honestly believed we were solid, at least until a week before our wedding. Looking back, there were little signs I ignored. Lisa had been acting kind of weird lately, more distant, secretive. She'd be on her phone constantly, locking her screen when I'd walk into the room. She'd cancel plans last minute, which wasn't her style. I kept telling myself she was just stressed about the wedding, that maybe she was nervous or overwhelmed. I didn't want to believe anything was wrong. But I can't lie. I did notice her getting more defensive when I asked simple questions. Like the night she told me she was working late at her job. She'd come home smelling like a different perfume, sometimes even with lipstick on her collar. I'd ask her about it, and she'd brush me off with a joke or say I was imagining things. She's always been bitchy when caught off guard, and this time was no different. She'd roll her eyes, tell me I was paranoid, that she was just tired, that I was overthinking everything. Honestly, I guess I wanted to believe her, even if deep down I knew something was off. Then came the night before the wedding, my bachelor party. I was out with some friends trying to relax, but I kept feeling this gnawing at me. My gut told me something was wrong, like an itch I couldn't scratch. I decided to check her phone after she went to bed. I know that's bad, but I couldn't help myself. I wasn't snooping just to invade her privacy. I was desperate to find out what was really going on. When I unlocked her phone, my heart practically stopped. There were texts, dozens of them, between her and my best man, Jake. The tone was way too intimate. They were talking about meeting up, inside jokes, even plans to spend some quality time together. I saw pictures, too. Leaked selfies, smirks, secret smiles. I could see the way they looked at each other in those messages, like they shared some secret, dirty world that I wasn't part of. That moment hit me like a punch to the stomach. Everything, the laughter, the shared moments, the trust, cracked wide open in an instant. I stared at the screen, feeling this mix of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. How long had this been going on? Was it just last night? Or longer? I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I laid there staring at her phone, trying to process what I'd just uncovered. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. How could my wife, my partner, the woman I was supposed to marry tomorrow, be sneaking around with my best man? It felt like my entire world was shattering into pieces. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was racing, and I couldn't even look at Lisa without feeling this intense mixture of betrayal and fury. The thought of her with Jake, my best friend, made me want to scream. I kept replaying those messages over and over, trying to make sense of it all, but there was no sense to be made. Only pain. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't just sit there and pretend everything was fine. Not anymore. So I got out of bed, grabbed her phone, and waited for her to wake up. When she finally rolled over and saw me standing there, her face immediately twisted into that bitchy, defensive look she always had when she was caught in a lie. Her eyes darted to her phone like she was trying to hide something, but I was already too far gone to care about her bullshit excuses. "Lisa," I said, my voice trembling but steady. "We need to talk, now." Her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" "It's too early for this, I'm tired." I didn't let her brush me off. I pulled the phone out of my pocket and showed her the messages. Her face instantly changed, her lips parting in shock, then quickly hardening into that bitchy sneer. "That's nothing," she shot back. "You're just being paranoid. You always overreact. Jake and I are just friends, for God's sake." I felt like I'd been punched again. "Friends? Those messages say otherwise. You've been sneaking around with him behind my back." "How long has this been going on?" Her smirk was bitter. "You're overthinking again. You're always suspicious. Jake and we're—" "Just cut the shit, Lisa," I interrupted. "I saw the pictures, the text. You've been lying to me from the start. How long?" She rolled her eyes, that dismissive, bitchy look creeping back onto her face. "Look, I don't owe you an explanation. I was bored, okay? It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. I love you, but Jake's just a rebound, a mistake. It's nothing serious." That lie hit me like a slap. "Nothing serious? Then why were you sneaking around? Why hide it from me?" She sat up, crossing her arms. "Because you'd freak out. You're always jealous and possessive. I didn't want to ruin the wedding day over some stupid mistake, but I swear it's over now. I don't even like him like that anymore. I stared at her, feeling my stomach turn. How could she be so cold, so manipulative? I'd seen the messages, I knew the truth. This wasn't just a fling, it was something real, and she'd been lying the whole time. I wanted to shake her, scream at her how much she'd hurt me, but I couldn't breathe. My mind was spinning. I felt like I was losing my mind, like everything I thought I knew about her was a lie. When she saw the look on my face, she started crying, fake tears, the kind she knew always got her out of trouble. She looked pathetic, but I saw right through it. That moment, I realized how good she was at lying. How she'd always been bitchy when caught, but this time she was playing her game much better. She knew she'd betrayed me and she didn't care. She was just trying to save herself, to keep the illusion of her perfect life intact. But I saw her for what she was, someone capable of deception, manipulation, and betrayal. I didn't say a word after that. I just got up and left the room. I need time to think, to process how deep this betrayal ran and what I was going to do next. My mind kept circling back to the fact that my wife had lied, cheated, and most painfully done it with my best man. How stupid I'd been to trust her, to trust anyone anymore. I'd always been a good guy, the kind who believed in loyalty, in honesty, in marriage. And now, I felt like I'd been thrown into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I spent that entire day in a fog. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. All I could do was replay that morning over and over, her lies, her tears, her smug smile when she thought she'd gotten away with it. The betrayal cut so deep I thought I might actually suffocate. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it coming, how I was so blind to the signs. Hell, I'd even questioned myself. Was I just imagining things? Was I overreacting? But no, it was all there in the messages, clear as day. As the hours dragged by, I tried to plan my next move. Part of me wanted to confront everyone, her, Jake, even my friends, to get some answers, but a louder part said to keep quiet, to figure out what I really wanted. I never thought I'd be one to let things spiral out of control, but this was different. I was furious, heartbroken, and utterly betrayed. I kept thinking about how she lied to my face, how she looked at me with that bitchy smirk every time she thought I wasn't paying attention. Late that night, I decided I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I knew I had to face her again, get her to admit everything. I was not going to let her spin some bullshit story and walk out the door like she hadn't just shattered my world. So I called her. No answer. I called again, and finally she picked up, her voice all fake and innocent. "What do you want, Mike?" "I want to know why," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "Why did you sleep with Jake? Why did you lie to me? How long has this been going on?" There was silence on her end for a beat. Then she sighed like I was just an annoying pest. "Look, I don't know what you want me to say. It was a mistake. I was just bored and Jake was there. It didn't mean anything serious." I scoffed. "That's bullshit, Lisa. Don't lie to me. I saw the messages. I know everything. How long have you been lying?" She hesitated, then finally admitted, "A few months, before the wedding. I didn't think it would matter anymore. I swear I didn't mean for it to come out like this. I just what? Just get caught, you mean? Just keep cheating on me and lying about it?" It was like I could hear her trying to justify herself, but it was all hollow. I felt so angry, so betrayed that I could barely breathe. I told her she needed to leave. Right then. Pack her things and get out of my house. She argued, of course, about how she loved me, how she'd never meant to hurt me, how she'd stop. But I wasn't having it. I told her that I didn't trust her anymore, that I needed time to think, and that she wasn't welcome here until I figured out what to do. She yelled, called me crazy, said I was overreacting, but I hung up on her before she could finish her bullshit. That night, I sat alone in silence, feeling the weight of her betrayal crush me. The woman I'd loved, the woman I was supposed to marry, turned out to be a liar, a cheat, and worse, she was capable of putting on that fake innocent act when her lies were exposed. I couldn't understand how someone I trusted so completely could stab me in the back like that. It's a pain I can't really put into words, but it's there, every second, gnawing at me. Like all the trust I ever had just evaporated in that one moment of discovery. I kept asking myself, how did I get here? How did I let this happen? The days that followed were probably the worst of my life. I was oscillating between anger and sadness, unable to fully process what had happened. Every time I saw her face in my mind, I felt this intense burning, a mixture of betrayal, heartbreak, and pure rage. I kept replaying that night I found her with Jake, the way her laughter echoed in my mind, and how cold she looked when she lied to my face. It was like I'd been punched again every single time. I tried to avoid her as much as possible. I couldn't stand looking at her without feeling my stomach turn. Every word she said, every excuse, felt like salt in a fresh wound. She kept calling, begging me to listen, to talk, to forgive her. But how do you forgive something like that? How do you come back from knowing your wife, your partner for years, slept with your best man, the guy I trusted more than anyone else? It was a gut punch I didn't see coming, and frankly, I wasn't sure I could survive it. One thing was clear: I needed support. I reached out to a few friends I trusted, people who have known me forever. I told them everything, and their reactions were priceless. Some told me to leave her, to cut her out of my life completely. Others told me to consider therapy, to work through my feelings. But honestly, I just needed to vent, needed someone to listen without judging. Most of all, I needed to figure out what I really wanted. The hardest part was facing the reality that my entire future with Lisa might be over. I started questioning everything. Was I ever really happy? Did I miss signs I should have seen? How could I have loved someone so much and not see the truth lurking right in front of me? It was a crushing blow to my ego, my trust, and my sense of security. I felt so lost, like I'd been walking blindfolded and finally tripped over something that I couldn't ignore anymore. Then came the moment I knew I had to make a choice. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay, because I was. I had to decide whether to forgive her and try to move on, or cut my losses and walk away. I spent a lot of sleepless nights agonizing over it. I was torn. Part of me wanted to believe she was genuinely sorry, that maybe we could fix this, but another part was screaming that I'd been stupid to trust her in the first place. She lied, cheated, and betrayed me in the worst way possible. How could I forgive her? How could I even look at her again without feeling sick? In the end, I decided I needed some space. I told her I was going to stay with my parents for a while, just to clear my head. I knew I wasn't going to rush into anything, not reconciliation, not separation. I just needed to breathe, to think about what I really wanted. I realized I wasn't going to make any decisions until I'd had enough time to process everything. It's funny how life can change so quickly. One moment you're planning a wedding, and the next you're wondering if your entire relationship was just a lie. That's where I was, broken, confused, and trying to find my footing again. Spending time away from Lisa was the best decision I could have made, even though it didn't make the pain go away. I stayed with my parents for a couple of weeks, trying to piece myself back together. Those days felt like a roller coaster. I'd wake up feeling numb, then suddenly overwhelmed with anger at her, then sink into deep sadness. It was like I was mourning a death I hadn't expected. The worst part was knowing the woman I loved, no, the woman I thought I knew, had been lying and sneaking around with my best man for months. During that time, I kept asking myself how I'd missed the signs. I replayed every single moment, the subtle hints, her defensive attitude, the way she'd brush off my questions. I kept wondering if I'd been blind on purpose, if I'd been fooling myself into believing we had something real when, in fact, she'd been planning her betrayal all along. It's hard to face the truth when you realize someone you trusted so blindly turned out to be someone completely different. I also started thinking about Jake, my best friend, the guy I'd trusted with everything, the guy I'd confided in, the one I thought I'd be able to count on for life. Turns out I was just another fool in his game. I hated feeling this way, disappointed, betrayed, sick to my stomach. But I also knew I couldn't keep running from the truth. The longer I stayed silent, the more I'd let this poison fester inside me. I knew I had to confront him, face him head on, and get some clarity. One night I decided I'd had enough of the waiting game. I called Jake. No hesitation, no beating around the bush. I told him to meet me at a bar nearby. When he showed up, the look in his eyes told me everything. Guilt, maybe, but also defiance. I didn't want to hear his excuses. I just wanted the truth. I asked him directly, how long had this been going on? Did she tell him to keep it a secret? And what was their plan? Were they planning to keep sneaking around? Or was this just a one-time thing that spiraled out of control? He hesitated, then finally admitted that it had been going on for a few months. He said she came on to him first, that she pursued him, and that he didn't push her away. He even had the nerve to say he'd just been playing along, not expecting it to blow up like this. I felt my blood boil. How could he be so cold, so callous? I'd trusted him, shared everything with him, and he'd been cheating on me with my wife. The betrayal was almost too much to handle. In that moment, I wanted to punch him, to scream at him until he understood how much he'd hurt me. But I didn't. I just sat there, stunned, listening to his lies and trying to hold back tears. I told him that I never wanted to see him again, that he was dead to me, and I left that bar feeling emptier than I ever had in my life. It was like losing two people, my wife and my best friend, in one devastating blow. That night I realized I was truly alone, and I had a long, hard road ahead of me. The trust I'd built with both of them was shattered beyond repair, and I wasn't sure I'd ever feel whole again. But I knew one thing for sure: this wasn't just about a betrayal. It was about finding a way to pick up the pieces and decide what my life was going to be moving forward. After that night, everything changed. I didn't rush into any decisions right away. I stayed with my parents a little longer, giving myself time to breathe and really think about what I wanted. The pain didn't just disappear, but gradually I started to see a way forward, though it wasn't easy. I realized I had to take control of my life again, even if it meant starting from scratch. Deciding to end things with Lisa was one of the hardest choices I've ever made. It hurt to think about the memories, the plans we made, and the future I'd envisioned. But deep down, I knew staying in a relationship built on lies wouldn't fix anything. Trust was broken beyond repair, and I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when it was. I told her that I wanted a clean break, that I needed to move on without her, and that I didn't want to hear from her again. She pleaded, cried, and threw out every excuse in the book, but I shut her down. I couldn't be around her anymore, not after everything. Once I was on my own again, I started to rebuild my life piece by piece. It wasn't about rushing to forget. It was about learning that I deserved better, that I was worth honesty and loyalty. I began seeing a therapist, talking through what happened and figuring out how to trust again. It's a process, and I still have bad days, but I'm getting stronger. I learned some hard lessons. Trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. But I also learned that I am resilient. I can survive this. Looking back, I realize how important it is to listen to your gut. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Don't make excuses for someone's bad behavior just because you love them. Loyalty and honesty are everything, and if they aren't there, then nothing else matters. This ordeal taught me that I shouldn't settle for anything less than respect and truth. Now I'm focusing on myself. I've started dating again, cautiously, but with a new understanding of what I need. I don't wish Lisa or Jake any ill will. They made their choices, and I've accepted that I can't change the past. But I hope anyone reading this who finds themselves in a similar spot understands. Betrayal hurts, but it also teaches you who you really are. It forces you to stand up, be honest with yourself, and find your way back to happiness. Because, at the end of the day, I know I'll be okay. I just have to keep moving forward, one step at a time.